things, being an engineer, being an inventor. So when they read about a scientist, Thomas Edison, for example, they say, wow, I also can invent something. So it builds a very strong confidence that they can do all these things. It stretches their visualization skills. Because in their mind, they can see all these possibilities. They can visualize. From the stories, they can visualize. I'll give you an example. All of us have been brought up by Enid Blyton, okay, in my age group, or not your age group, in my age group. Enid Blyton, it is based in England, okay, with the English climate, English tea, English garden, English, but we totally can visualize it even though we have not seen any of those. They go to the beach and hide in the cave and do all kinds of naughty things. It's nothing to do with Singapore or Thailand or Brunei, but we can imagine and visualize a cave. We can visualize them doing all those naughty things. So it's quite amazing that the power of words to transport you to a totally different place. You can sit and forget where you are. So this helps people to be more creative, to be more artistic. Because if I were to ask you, can you sketch an English garden? Oh, I can sketch an English garden even though I've never seen one. Okay? I can sketch the white cliffs of Dover even though I've never been there. I can sketch the Eiffel Tower even though I've never been there. Because the power of images, the power of words help me to do all that. Okay? It then makes us more independent. Because if I can read now, then I don't need someone to come and teach me. I can source my own books. I can browse the library to choose what I want to read. I can now have the power to learn what I want at the pace that I want. I become more independent of my teacher and my parents. And this is a very, very powerful development in the growth of an individual. This power to know more, this power to explore in directions which are not dictated to me. This is very, very important. So this development of the independent learning culture, independent learning ability, independent thinking ability, independent ability to make their own decisions and read what they want, the stories that they want, the characters that they want, is an important milestone in the development of a young adult. Okay, so now they can analyze, they can think and they can analyze. And if they continue to read in your language, it will deepen their appreciation of your own culture. Okay? So, just to summarize, we can start the reading process as early as the 16th week of pregnancy. Reading provides an essential skill for lifelong learning and for going to school. It's absolutely important. We cannot speak well, we cannot write well if we cannot read well. Because when you read, your range of words that you have before you to use increases. And words are what you use to write, words are what you use to speak. So therefore, you can have the wide range of expression. So you can write better, you can express your thoughts and your ideas better, you can speak with confidence. So you can't do either writing or speaking well if you cannot read. And let me add a third one. You cannot listen well. You cannot listen well if you do not read. Because reading gives you the power of reflection. Because after you read a couple of pages, you want to sit and think about it. Similarly, when you're hearing somebody speak, you also want to think about it. So that gives you the power of listening and power of analysis. So reading, therefore, gives us access now to the thoughts, to the imaginations of other people. because I am reading the thoughts of somebody else, and access to knowledge, ideas, visions, stories that other people have thought about have now become accessible to me. So if somebody thinks of something, writes about it, I read about it, that becomes like, hey, I can now join up with those thoughts. My thoughts and their thoughts can now be put together. So now from ABC reading, I have now moved to Einstein's theory, E equal to mc squared. I have access to Einstein's general theory of relativity. From where did I start from? I start from ABC. So imagine that. That's what reading does for you. It gives you access to the entire knowledge of the world. And with the internet today, all of that is easily made available. Okay? Now, my point is this. What about after school? What about later in life? We tend to ignore the value and the benefits of reading after the child starts school, because we assume, oh, okay, the child knows how to read, the child goes to school, the child is going to learn, the child is going to come out as an educated adult or educated young person. We think that we have done our duty for the child because now the child is in school. We take it for granted that this reading habit, this curiosity, this discovery, this urge to find out things is a habit. We take it for granted. We assume that it's going to be a habit. And I'm going to put it to you that no, this habit can die. This habit can be killed. And therefore, this is not necessarily true. And we must make sure that reading is lifelong. Reading is lifelong, all the way up to your last day on this earth. Reading is a lifelong skill and activity along the whole life cycle. Okay? Young person, graduate, goes to work, becomes a professional, gets married, has children, becomes old senior citizen, and passes on. That whole life cycle, reading is essential. Absolutely essential. So it needs to be nurtured, it needs to be motivated, even for those who can already read. That's what we need to do. We need to keep that motivation, we need to keep that opportunity, we need to provide all the necessary tools to ensure that people read throughout their life cycle. So, what are the types of reading which are available? Of course, I already talked about early beginning reading. Okay? Simple words, colorful books. Then you move on to school textbooks. A lot of heavy reading in school and college textbooks. Then you have newspapers and magazines, which is very, very popular. Even in this room, newspapers and magazines are well read for news, for entertainment, for gossip, etc., for politics, for economics, for social events, for sports. We like to read about all those things. Then, of course, we have fiction. Fiction, storybooks, romance, horror, ghost stories, whole range of storybooks, okay? Action, spy, thriller, and so on and so forth. Then we have non-fiction books, a whole range of non-fiction books, which is for knowledge, information. We also have comics, and now we have a genre called graphic novels, very, very upmarket now. Those authors are very famous, and they are well. If they come to your country, they will be like Lady Gaga, okay? The authors of these graphic novels. And now today we have internet reading. We read blogs, we read discussion groups, we read forums, we read news, newspapers, magazine articles, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So what is happening in the internet world is that you do not read long articles anymore. Okay, what you read are short snippets, lots and lots of short snippets. And in Twitter, you basically read one line. So what is happening is that the nature of reading is being changed. It's being completely changed. We are being given, thrown in front of us, lots of teasers. We are given lots of teasers. That is to say, short bits. And if we want to read more, click more. Becomes more. Then you want to read more, you click some more. So if you don't want, you navigate back, you start again, small, large, bigger. Because in the internet world, people don't have the time or the patience to read a lot. Okay? And if the screen doesn't refresh within half a second, you've already gone to the next page. So if you have heavy graphics and the screen doesn't refresh on the web page, on the monitor, the young person is gone. It's gone. Okay? You want to know how long it should take for a web page to refresh? Measure the time it takes for a young person to put a popcorn in his mouth. If the web page doesn't refresh between that time, it's too late already. Yeah? By the time they put one popcorn, the next page should be there. So designing web pages is very, very important. Navigation is very, very important. And of course, you must be part of the Google search algorithm. Because whatever material you librarians may have in your library, digitized material, if Google doesn't find it, it might as well not be there. Yeah? So these are the types of reading. So you start with your stone block. This is how writing started. Chip on the block with a chisel, and people can read. So how many people can do this? Okay? So among your whole population, 1 in a million or 2 in a million. Very, very few people have access to knowledge. That's why those who have the access to knowledge are extremely powerful. Extremely powerful people. Yeah? Then you had paper. Once you had paper, you had ink, people can start writing, and when they start writing, you can make many copies. And in fact, in the monasteries, this was a major activity in the monasteries. Okay? Is this to copy and write and rewrite, make many copies of the same item, so more and more people can have access to it. So that's why you have on these palm leaves or paper books, lots of handwritten copies. And they are beautifully painted as well, beautifully illustrated as well. But all of them are done by hand. And then you had the digital book. Sorry, you had the book, the printed book. Okay? Now the printed book, once printing came in, books are plentiful. Everybody has access to printed material. And today with photocopying machines and so on, it's very, very easy to print. So this is the reading through the ages. So more and more people have access to knowledge today. It is not restricted to anyone. And today, of course, we have it in our hands. Wherever we go, we can have access to newspapers, magazines, books, anything and everything that we ever wanted can be found. Yeah? If I need to find out something, like what is the plug point in Thailand, before I leave here, I find out what is the plug point in Thailand, it will tell me. Okay? And I will know, I will bring the correct plug. But whether it will fit in here is a different story. Okay? So we have a huge amount of material now. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. A lot of people who tell me, Dr. Prasad, I will never leave my book. I need a book to lie down with. And I want to tell them this. Forget about the medium. Forget about the medium. It is the content. It is the content that is important. Because the medium has changed over the ages. You can't sleep with your stone book. Yeah? I'm sure not many people slept with their stone book and say, oh, please don't give me paper. So the medium will change. And young people are very comfortable with this. Because they want to absorb as much as possible. So don't get attached to the medium. Read in whatever format that you get. If you get it in paper, read it. If you get it in electronic form, read it. If you get it in a stone, also read it. I read everything. Okay? So let us go back now. Let us go back. So we have early readers, we had school going, and now we have a bunch of people called teenagers. This is a very sensitive time, teenagers. From the age of 13 to 19, 20 is a very, very important part of their lives. And for parents and teachers to interact with their teens is it's not an easy job to do. Okay? You need a degree in psychology to handle teens. So why is reading important to teens? Well, first of all, it leads to academic success. Teens who read more above their classroom work, above their homework, no question about it, do well in school. Teens who just read the textbooks and homework assignment do average. And teens who don't do any reading do below average. So for teenagers who want to do academically well, to get to the top schools, I was reading in the newspaper today how about the ballot for the prestigious schools, yeah, how 1,000 over students couldn't get into the prestigious schools. You have to ensure that they continue with their reading habit outside their homework, outside their classroom assignments. It expands their vocabulary into huge, much more than the parents. Their vocabulary is much more than the parents. It expands their mental horizons and exposure to new ideas. And as I already said, their writing skills and expressiveness and creativity will improve. And those who read the literature, classic literature, can grasp complex relationships, complex ideas, humanistic ideas, because it prepares them for the real world. Our classic literature is not a simple folk tale. Our classic literature is full of nuances of relationships between the king and his subjects and his courtiers and his chiefs. And what happens behind the scenes, the intrigue behind the scenes. So this classic literature of human interaction is something that when teens read, they begin to understand a lot more about what's ahead of them. So the more that teens read, the more information that they will pick up, and therefore this is very useful for their classes. Because what they've done is they have read beyond their discipline. So if they want geography or history, what they've now read is around the whole thing. And therefore, when they answer questions in class or do projects, they're able to bring in interdisciplinary knowledge into their answers, which will earn them a lot of marks. A very good part for them is biographies, because biographies provide a better understanding of how people made decisions, critical decisions at different times of history. Okay? It's no use just studying history class. Okay, history on this year, this person did this person